Too funny. I look horrible in this hat, but I sure love it. Angeles City. Wow, there's an echo in here. Sorry about that. I made a video about Angeles City saying I wouldn't want to live there anymore. My mindset's kind of changed, and somebody was kind of giving me a hard time about, not a hard time, but they were asking if my only big draw to Angeles City was the party zone, to put it in PC terms. So no, I'm going to talk about that pretty much. That's about the gist of this video. Is why I initially thought Angeles City would be a great place to live. As a retired person who wanting to travel and explore the world and have fun and go out and live the best season of my life, I really thought Angeles City was a good option. And for some people, I still think it is a great option. For me, it's not. And I'm going to dive into that, the whys, and I kind of touched the why nots, and I'll revisit some of those, but the whys, let's just start off the cost of living, right? Cost of living in Angeles City is significantly less than, most places in the world. So I'm in California at the moment. In the morning, I go get a coffee and a BLT, and it is $20. You add a tip, and by the time everything adds up, usually I'm out of there just under $25 a morning. So $25 for a coffee, a couple coffees and a BLT, that's pretty steep, right? What can you get to eat for $25 in the Philippines? Probably quite a bit, right? That's like 1,200. Right, but Angeles City has a lot of options for living and a lot of options for food. That wasn't the sole reason I was looking at Angeles City to begin with. One of the reasons was the Philippines has a really great visa program. So you can stay there and you can either, run your extensions or in and out every 30 days. If you planned your trips right, in and out every 30 days is pretty doable. What I did in California before I left, in the years prepping to move abroad, is I worked my budget down to where I was living in California. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say I had my living budget down to about 1,500 or 1,700 USD. That was food, rent, everything. And then my fun budget was for weekends or trips or whatever. And so if I was operating on a 2,500 a month or 2,000 a month budget, it gave me $300 to $500, $300 to $800 a month to go, for extracurricular activities, right? Now, if you go to the Philippines, you can take that, say it was 1,500, right? You could take that 1,500 and almost cut it in half, cut your living expenses down, because I'm eating in most of the time, and doing things, the average every day is really cheap, right? And then I can take that extra money, put it to extracurriculars like travel or whatever, buying a new GoPro or whatever it is, right? And if I'm in the Philippines, like just to give you an example, these are California numbers, are pretty easy for me because I'm here. But, and you can do this anywhere. But if I go anywhere in California, hotel nights right now, back then, I could get a hotel around $100 a month or $100 a night. So now I'm looking at hotels, pretty much anything I would be comfortable sleeping in. Most places in California, you're looking at $200 a night. And then, and then it just goes up from there. The BLT I talked about is a great food example, right? A cup of coffee is $5 or $6. You go to 7-Eleven or any Quick Mart, you want to get a bottle of water, it's $3. I found the cheap water is you go to CVS or Rayleigh's or Safeway or something, you get a gallon, and you can get gallons down to like, under 2, but then you're toting around a gallon in the old milk jug, right? Not the plastic jug. which ironically I think are more healthy for you. But it's still a gallon of water. It's not a water bottle, right? My point is everything is more expensive here. So everything is cheaper there. And there's just a lot of advantages. And you take that extra money that you're saving off the top, plus the money I'd already learned to save here in America. And now I can go on weekend trips or week-long trips out to other countries. If I save for 2 or 3 months, I can go spend a week in Thailand or a week in Bali or a week here or a week there. And I break all that down in the bucket list on a budget video, and I'm probably going to redo that video soon, but look for it in the description. So the other things Angeles City had going for above places I had looked at before I traveled the world was the ease of the airport. The airport was super easy. Clark, to get in and out of, was super easy. And from Clark, you could go a lot of places. From Clark, you know, at the time I was looking 2019, 2020, Clark had a lot more international flights than what I see, or I haven't looked in the last 6 months, but about a year ago, I was looking really hard and I didn't see as many. There are still some, still enough, but there were a lot more international flights to places like Vietnam, to, you know, everywhere from Japan to India. I could pretty much, back then, I could find a round trip under $200. You know, it wasn't always the right time or the right, you know, city, but I could find pretty much anywhere but Hawaii or Guam and a few other like specific places. I could get to round trip under $200 if I chose my dates right. And that's got a huge appeal because, like, I was comparing it to California prices, right? That's 2 nights in a hotel back then, or 1 night in a hotel now. And then you look at the price of hotels and they're just, you know, not even on the same scale, right? So what would be my expenses for a weekend here end up being my expenses for a week, you know, long vacation down there in Southeast Asia. And when you add in the airport, it's super easy to get in and out of. That's great. The other thing that Angeles City offered was it was easy. It was easy to find anything you want, easy to do anything you want. As far as, you know, getting in and out of the city, as far as finding food, as far as, you know, finding help, as far as getting around the country, the Philippines itself. And there's a lot of people in Angeles City that are there that speak English and can help you out. So it's a real easy place to land and, you know, drop into an apartment. You've got ready-made friends at every bar. You know, it's just a really easy place to do. And when I hadn't been traveling as much, you know, that seemed like a really good option because there's so many people there and so many people that, you know, I could lean on for information or ideas that, you know, it was really kind of a sweet spot, right? It was kind of that, you know, lucky number, so to speak. But now that I've been traveling for a few years, you know, I don't really need that support group. I don't need that ready-made friend group. I don't need that advice pool. And I know how to find it elsewhere, right? So the things that made Angeles City very attractive to me, you know, aren't as big of a priority as they were. Now, what also really changed was I really discovered my future lifestyle, and my future lifestyle isn't really compatible with Angeles City. So Angeles City is great if you're trying to, you know, in my impression from my visits, 5, 6, 7 times, I don't know. If I was trying to, you know, sit down and save money, you know, there's a lot of, to go on excursions or side trips or exploratory trips, right? There's a lot of really cheap things to do in Angeles City. And, you know, it, like I said, it opens up the access to everything. So, I don't know, there's a lot of really good perks about it. You know, so you look at transportation, you look at food, you look at support, you look at, you know, internet, all that stuff's really stable. Yeah, there's some brownouts, but talking to locals, talking to business owners, talking to people, and then my personal experience there is brownouts aren't a huge deal like in other places. So you start asking yourself, well, what isn't in Angeles City? And what isn't in Angeles City are things I look for now. So access to nature. If you're living in Candy Towers, you're not finding yourself in a, what do you call that? There's a word I can't think of, the encompassing park, right? You're not going to find yourself deep in that nature feel, in a half-hour walk or an hour walk. You're going to have to get on some, form of transportation and get the hell out of the city. Or in a lot of cities I've been, you can get into different parks and you feel like you're in nature. It sounds like you're in nature. It looks like you're in nature. But you're not going to find that in Angeles City. But you are going to find a lot of motorbikes. You're going to find a lot of accessibility, to get around the country. If you want to go north to Baller or north to Baguio or out to Subic or down to Manila or anywhere in Luzon, right? You're pretty centrally located in Luzon and you don't have the traffic burden that you do in Manila. So there's a lot of perks. And if I wouldn't change my decision I made, in 2019 to, originally my plan was to more than likely end up in Angeles City. I was going to move there in 2020. Fall of 2020 was the plan. And, I was happy with that decision then. And, looking back on it, I wouldn't change it. The way things happened with the lockdowns and stuff, 2022 found me in Europe and I explored Europe and I really got my feet under me as far as being a traveler and not a base camper. I planned on going to Angeles to base camp. Save, and then travel. Save, and travel. And I still think Angeles City is a great option for that. And it kind of, I've met a lot of people that live there and seen a lot of people online. And it kind of cracks me up that people that live there aren't taking advantage of that. They'd rather go out to breakfast every week instead of saving that money and go down, to Bali or go over to Thailand or go to Vietnam or Japan or, Kuala Lumpur. I'm loving Malaysia right now. And all those are very strikeable, excursions, very doable excursions from Angeles City. If you just, don't go out to eat so much, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. Getting back to the perks of it, right? The perks are the location, the cost, the accessibility to travel internationally, the accessibility to travel intranationally, in and outside the country, right? It's very accessible. If you want to get to any island, there's pretty much a flight from Angeles to every island. I forgot the order now and I didn't make notes. So you got location, accessibility, food, cost of living, ease of integration, right? You can meet a lot of people. There's a lot of English speakers. There's a lot of locals who speak English. A lot of foreigners, a huge pool of ready-made friends and stuff. Obviously you want to kind of be selective about who you hang out with. I'm pretty non-selective about who I talk to, but I'm very selective about who I hang out with. And I think that's a good rule of thumb for everybody, it's just a real easy place. But, like I've said, after traveling for 2 years on the road, I don't really need the easy place anymore. I'm comfortable coming and going. I'm comfortable setting up shop, in different places where there's no English or little English or a lot of English spoken. And Angeles City, if you're going to spend a lot of time in the Philippines or go down for, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 week vacations, I think Angeles City is a really great location to fly in and fly out of. Even if you fly into Manila, if you go straight to, I think it's Terminal 3 and jump the bus to SM Clark, the mall, there's that shuttle bus from the airport. It's still kind of like flying into Angeles, because you're not doing anything but jump on the bus. It's just like a little extension to your flight. And so it offers that, where if you're in Manila, you're trying to get in and out of Manila, it's usually a taxi to and from the airport or a Grab. And it's just headaches I don't want, right? People complain about the traffic in Angeles City, but it's nothing compared to most places. Sure, you've got busy times. Sure, it's dangerous. But that's traffic everywhere, right? I don't see that as a legitimate complaint, positive or negative. I do see it as a positive thing, because most of the traffic in Angeles City is very light compared to everywhere else. So it's easy, right? Just makes life easy. And everything you need as an expat is very close and local. And if it's not close and local, you can get somebody to go get it for you. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think there's a lot to Angeles City. There isn't a lot of activities I would like, or would be part of my life in the future. There are some golfing opportunities. There's lots of food opportunities. There's, excursion opportunities, and then there's running and biking, around the tracks. But I wouldn't be doing a lot of road work on a bike. I know locals do it, but, to me, it's just seeing the drivers in the Philippines. It's a little risky on some of the highways. A little more risky than I want to expose myself to. And it's the same thing with walking. I've grown very accustomed to walking in other cities and spending a lot of time walking. And, you always have to have your head on a swivel. I'm not saying be complacent in other places, but you have to be at that next level of alert in Angeles City or the Philippines when you're out walking. So, that's kind of dipping a little more into the pool of why I wouldn't want to than I wanted to talk about in this video. But, it is what it is, right? It's just a conversation. I didn't make notes or anything. But yeah, I honestly think if I were to, if somebody were to ask me, what city would you go to first? And I was looking at Asia, I think even before Thailand or Malaysia, I would go to Angeles City, just because if you're there, and whether you set up a base camp there or not, there's so many opportunities for you to network with other travelers, network with locals, and get used to being on your, abroad. But once you've been abroad, I can't see people staying in Angeles City for any length of time unless they're really into, bar scene, or they've got some family, or they've got a business hook, or, there's got to be something more there, I think. I mean, if you're an avid golfer, maybe, I don't know. If you got a villa, you're buying a house and a villa and a car and all that, landing in Angeles City would just, to me, just be a fluke, because there's a lot of cities, if you're going to go that route, if you're going to buy or rent a house, get a car and all that, there's a lot of places to do that. Angeles City is one of them, and you'd probably be out in the suburbs or something. But again, I don't see why you would pick Angeles City for that. Angeles City really sets itself apart by being easy for foreigners and having really great access to travel options, travel inside the country and travel outside the country. So, being centrally located, being close to, the international airports, and, having a lot of options, and ease for foreigners, because there's so many there, it really is a good place to land. But like I said, I think if you land in Angeles City, I don't think I would even ever sign a lease more than 6 months there, because eventually you're going to get comfortable living abroad. You're going to get comfortable with all the, this is my impression, right? My impression is eventually you're going to get comfortable with everything, and you're going to start going, okay, well, I want to live more in a big city. And so then you'd be looking at Cebu, Manila, Kuala Lumpur, maybe Jakarta, I don't know. But you're either going to want to go bigger city, same size city, or smaller, province type area. And, I just can't imagine many people wanting to stay in Angeles City unless you're there for the girls, unless you're there for the bars and the girls, then I get it. The idea of healthcare is being discussed on a few channels right now. And, I think they're doing a good job of it. But, if your healthcare is so urgent that you need to be that close to a doctor, I wouldn't be in the Philippines anyway. Like, I wouldn't be anywhere outside the US if I was that worried about my health. I think there's you have to reach a certain responsibility that, or a certain peace with the idea that you're not going to live, if you need emergency care within 30 minutes anywhere in the world. They talk about the golden hour quite a bit. Golden hour is the first hour after injury or incident or acute, medical incident. So getting seen within that first hour getting appropriate medical care within the first hour can have significant benefits on survivability rates, significant positive influence on survivability rates. So they call it the golden hour. Now, in the Philippines, if you're suffering from something that needs attention in that golden hour, I'm not sure you're going to get it. I'm not sure you're going to get it at all. There was a lady that got hit by a van, and she was on the side of the road for 20, 30 minutes, if I remember right. And then to the hospital, and then you're still not getting care within that golden hour. So, it's kind of a fallacy in some regard, but it also isn't, because if you're a chronic medical patient, you're getting care for your chronic diseases or chronic problems, then someplace like Angeles City or a bigger city would, the access to medical care would be a lot more relevant. But if you're worried about the random heart attack or the random broken leg, I'm not sure it makes that much of a difference. I would have to look at it a lot closer, but my impression is, as long as you're on, because some things they won't fly you, or you can't fly with some, problems, but, my impression is as long as you're, within driving distance of decent, when I say driving distance, I mean 4 or 5 hours of a decent hospital, I think you're good. Because the first hour, you're only going to get the care you're going to get, and there's, it's not going to be that great, no matter where you're at in the Philippines, unless you're right next to a hospital in Manila. And it's not a dig on the medical services. It's just, it is what it is. It's volume and dollars. They're not getting the volume of those patients, and they're not, raking in the dollars from those patients. So they can't offer that extra level of care, or that next level of care. It just is what it is. But my point being is, if medical is such a concern, maybe just stay home, right? Just stay home. Why? And maybe do vacations. Maybe, save your money and go to higher end vacations. I don't know. But I think if you're going to be poor as a Westerner, there isn't a better place in California to be poor. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but there's a lot of perks, and you can work the system a lot easier, a lot differently. Now, I haven't been homeless in a lot of states, but I have been homeless in California, and it is pretty easy. So that's what I got. Angeles City, definitely not top on my list, not in the, probably even in the top 5 of where I'd want to live right now and where I can afford to live. But again, going back to me in 2019 and 2020, I would put Angeles City at the top. Food accessibility, for travel in and out, getting around town, making friends, both local and foreign, having that resource of, people to talk to and activities. There's just a lot to it. Doesn't have a beach, doesn't have a mountain, doesn't have a great park, doesn't have this, doesn't have that, but nothing's perfect. And for a first time out, or a first, excursion out, I would say Angeles City for 6 months is a really good plan if you're taking advantage of all those things that are available to you. If you're just going to sit in your room, sit in your hotel or room or whatever, your apartment, and play video games and get on YouTube and be on YouTube 24/7, then I'll go find a cheaper place. Angeles City is not super expensive compared to the rest of the Philippines, but it's not cheap, right? And if you're a big city person, I haven't been to Cebu proper, but a lot of people talk great about Cebu. If you're a big city person, I would try Cebu. Manila, I can tell you, places I've been in Manila, I wouldn't recommend back then or now. So, I think once you get farther out, if you're going to get a car or a motorcycle and you live farther out of Manila, I think that might be okay. I know some people in Batangas, or knew some people in Batangas, and they loved it. It's south of Manila. But, I don't know. That's my opinion. That's my impression. I think there's so many perks to Angeles City. And the downsides for me just outweigh it at this point in time. And not because I'm, putting different weights on the scale. It's just because I've been other places that are better for me. I've been other places, it's not that it's gone down that much after COVID. It's gone down a little bit as far as I would rank it. But there's a lot of other places I've been that offer me same, equal, or greater opportunities, in almost all those categories. So cost of living, I can find cheaper elsewhere. I can find higher quality food elsewhere. Ease of transportation. Maybe Triana would compare as far as like getting in and out of the airport and accessing the airport. I think Triana and Krakow. I mean, Kuala Lumpur is easy. A couple cities in Japan are easy, but Angeles City, Triana, even Triana's a little harder because it's a little farther out, and Krakow is a little farther out. But both those are still like super easy, and the airports are great, fast in and out. But I still think Angeles City has more direct flights, cheaper direct flights. So, I mean, that's the, one thing it really competes on for me still is it's very centrally located in Southeast Asia. It's got a lot of direct flights, and getting to and from the airport is easy. Getting around the Philippines is easy. So, I don't know. Hopefully I've repeated myself enough where, some of those talking points sink in and give you something to think about, something to look at. And flesh out your own opinions on what you see, what you hear, and what you find. I would definitely, if you're looking at moving to Angeles City or the Philippines, definitely dig in and look. But I will say this again, and I'll say it to the end of my days. As far as a first place to live abroad, unless you've got a lot of experience living in very remote areas, think about nothing bigger than a 7-Eleven within an hour's drive of your house, right? Nothing bigger than a convenience store within an hour's drive of your house. I wouldn't be moving straight to the province. I just think that's too big of a culture shock for many Americans or foreigners, if you haven't lived in remote areas like that, I lived in an area that was about an hour's drive to anything larger than a convenience store, hour and a half most days. But some days we'd make it in under an hour. And it was, a very different experience. And if you're not prepared for that, or, any experience with that, I would spend more time in Angeles City, get used to the money, get used to the food, get used to the locals. It's a very great place to, get acclimated and get accustomed to living outside of whatever country you're coming from. But anyway, that's what I got. Oh, yeah, and there's bars and girls, and they're fun once in a while, but, if that's all you're looking for, I'm not even sure that would be my place to go. I think there's other places in the world where, if you just want bars and girls, I think there's other places in the world that compete very well. It's just a matter of finding those. Brazil, Dominican Republic, Thailand, of course. I don't know. I haven't explored that option too much, but it's out there. If that's what you're chasing, go chase it and have a good time. I'm gonna get to work. I've got some laundry to do. I've got boring domestic, it's strange being grounded because I've got all these I have dishes to do. Crazy. Take care.